Good morning. My name's Bill and I'm an alcoholic. And today's share is called Inventory. Walking into a store, walking into a supermarket, walking into a shop and deciding what to buy has absolutely nothing to do with alcoholism. Well, to most people it may not have anything to do with alcoholism, but unfortunately to the alcoholic the truth is somewhat different. Because when I walk into a store, when I walk into a supermarket, when I walk into a shop, it's all about looking, it's all about seeing, and it's all about making decisions. It's all about me making choices. It's all about me saying yes or no. It's about where I'm thinking to myself, should I or shouldn't I? And it's about where that should I and or shouldn't I come together. And in AA, in the 12-step recovery program of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's where we call all of these things taking inventory. And in the Serenity Prayer that we all say every day, it asks that we look at the things we can't change, look at the things we can change, look at the decisions we make. But it also asks us to see which ones are good and bad, which ones we should or shouldn't take. And to an alcoholic, taking inventory can often spell confusion. It can bring about dilemma. It brings resentments to the surface or low self-worth. But it also brings about happiness. It can bring about a day of sunshine. It can bring about some inner security. But it's when we get our inventory taking wrong that it can bring unhappiness and pain. But when we get that inventory taking right, it brings about a feeling that we're worthy and we're not spoiling the program that we have in front of us. Where I spend my life, or I used to, looking to see what everybody else was thinking, what they were thinking about me, and what was going on in their mind. And all this just brings about an air of negativity, of hurtful feelings, that they don't like me, or they've never liked me. But when I look at myself, that I'm encouraged to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, it brings about a quietness, it brings about some stillness, it brings about some positivity, that I'm not making the same mistakes as I always used to make. Because when I find some stillness in my life, I find the opposite of turmoil. Where not looking at other people brings a certain peace in my time, in my day, and in my life. A peace that I've never known before. For when I'm looking at you, I usually gravitate towards the negative. I'm finding out what's wrong with you. And it's the one thing I did all my life. And it's the most wonderful thing to keep me drinking. Because while I'm finding out the negativity in you, it deflects on me having to look at me. And it's the best way to keep drinking for all of those years. Unfortunately, I brought that same inventory taking into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, where at those early meetings I'd look at people's shoes and what they wore and how their hair was. And whilst I'm looking at other people, thinking, well, you're a bit of a twat, or you shouldn't be doing that. It saves me looking at me. It's the most wonderful thing in the world to keep an alcoholic sick. In my recovery from alcoholism, personal inventory taking is the bedrock upon which I've stayed sober. I'm not perfect at it. I will never be perfect at it. And I say to myself and my sponsees, listen, we take inventory on others where it is based on fact. And if someone's running down the road at me shouting, Bill, Bill, I'm going to chop your head off with this machete, I'm going to take their inventory and get out the way. But where I take people's inventory, which is built on innuendo, on gossip, on just what I think they're thinking, that's when things can be dangerous. Where seeing what's wrong in others becomes a one-way ticket to picking up the next drink, because it leads to negativity, to resentment, to low self-worth, that nobody likes me and you've never liked me. And to the untrained eye, deciding on a box of cornflakes or a box of honey nut cornflakes may seem inconsequential and innocuous. To make a choice between a box of cornflakes and a box of honey nut cornflakes, to everybody else is just a choice. But to the alcoholic it can be divisive, it can be painful, and it can be confusing. Even a glance, a sigh, a grin, or maybe even a smile from somebody else in the supermarket are all danger areas to an alcoholic, because we've got to work out what they mean. And if someone smiles at me, it can be quite nice, but then I think, what do they want? And because of my drinking, people didn't smile at me for no reason. They were just being nice, but they didn't mean it really. Because all my life I've got to work out what you really mean, what you're really thinking, what you're not thinking. Now today, and every day, I take inventory 1,000 times a day. All day, every day, I'm taking inventory. I'm taking inventory if I make a cup of tea. I've got to put water in the kettle. I've got to heat it up. I've got to see if we've got any tea bags. Is there any milk? Does someone say want sugar? But to the alcoholic of our type, taking inventory can often be difficult, and it can be an unnerving experience. On a good day, taking inventory is easy. On a guilt-laden, soul-searching, resentment-ridden day, it can lead to me taking a drink. As I said, I always try and take inventory if it's based on fact and not on innuendo. Do not take inventory on paranoia, on gossip, on half-truths. Don't take inventory on anything else but on reality, but definitely not on fantasy. Wellness, my spiritual journey, my strength, doesn't grow out of a pot of yesterday's garbage. Hope doesn't emerge from seeing the wrong in others. And happiness never materializes out of a negative thinking or of running others down. So today, instead of gravitating towards the negative, I try and be positive. Because whilst I'm being positive, I'm thinking good things, and while I'm thinking good things, I'll feel better. But for each negative, it brings about a negative. But today, if I'm starting to think negative, I try and turn that around to think positive. For each lie I might be thinking, I try and find the truth. Nothing ever came in my life out of seeking the bad, out of working out what's wrong. But some good will always grow from the seeds of looking above, at the positive, at the good, at the wholesome, and not at the bad or below or at the negative. Inventory taking is both a blessing and a curse. Where recovery teaches me to look at the former, to look at the blessings, where the latter is nothing more than picking up a drink. For negativity brings instant gratification, but in the long term it leads to looking for more misgivings. And that instant gratification that comes from running someone else down eventually brings me down. There's only one simple solution to a recovery from alcoholism, and that's for me to look within me. I've tried looking at others for 25 years in drinking, and I've tried looking at others for 25 years in recovery. And it's no coincidence that I drank for 25 years. But in recovery, I've had to try and turn that super tanker of taking inventory around from looking at you to looking at me. And just for today, in turning that super tanker around of inventory taking, where I focus on me, I focus on the good and the bad, and I focus on that lovely saying we have in AA, if bad things keep happening, stop doing them. And it hasn't gone unnoticed that whilst I've been trying to get away from the negative, to start looking at me, to start bringing some spirituality into my journey, I haven't found the need to pick up a drink. Is that coincidence? I think not. But either way, it's been quite a lesson. It's been a lesson in how to bring about a spiritual malady where I drink, or it's about bringing about a spiritual wellness, a path to spiritual enlightenment, where just for today, I don't think I'm going to pick up that next drink. All because I've learnt not to get rid of taking inventory, but either take inventory on fact or to take my own inventory. And one of the biggest things I've learnt in AA is while I'm pointing the finger at you, taking your inventory, what I'm saying is you need to change, and you need to change and sort your life out, and you need to change and stop treating me like the way you do. But the programme says, but Bill, you need to change, and you need to change into a person that accepts that other person exactly as they are, and start making changes in your life, because you're the one in AA, you're the one who's trying to stay sober, and you're the one who's trying to work a 12-step recovery programme that just happens to have a step 10 contained within it that says continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, to promptly admit it. Bill the Shirt, Bristol.